A symptom of every cycle, the late stages anyway, is a massive rise in speculation. And this time we're seeing it on steroids. And it's for this reason, this one reason alone. There are many more, but this one in particular, the rise in speculation, or also known as gambling, further just validates my thesis. And that's the thesis of us coming to the end of a major economic cycle, the global economy in the process of peaking, meaning we're heading into a long-term downturn, a recession, and quite a bad recession at that. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there are platforms out there which let you gamble on pretty much anything. A couple of them include Polymarket and also Kalshi, which have found a loophole that allow people to gamble because they're technically classified as prediction markets as opposed to gambling platforms. Now, as an interesting side note, the Trump family have their finger in this pie, and I'll let you be the judge as to whether it's a genius business move, being able to basically write the rules and pass legislation, or if in fact it's an abuse of power. Maybe it's a little bit of both. And actually, while I said let me know what you think, probably don't let me know what you think, as it seems to be increasingly difficult to have a sensible discussion on politics, which actually is another symptom of the cycle, just the overall divide between the left and right. So, once again, we're just seeing all the typical markers that we see at the end of the cycle playing out with the rise in speculation, the divide between the political parties, and also a divide between the haves and have-nots as we're in this K-shaped economy as well. There are just signs everywhere. But back to gambling, Warren Buffett, the greatest value investor of all time, recently said something along the lines of, there's never been a greater mood for gambling than right now. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but it was along those lines. And this was in an interview he did only about a day or so ago. So, we're talking about right now. And that really says something as to the state of the markets, or rather the people involved in the markets right now. Now, I'll leave a link to the interview in the description below, but something else he said in that interview was really eye-opening, and that is, in the last 60 years of investing, only about 5 of those years have been actually juicy in Buffett's terms. And now think about that, sit on that. That's less than 10% of the time it's actually, juicy to be investing. And now he's a value investor, so take that for what it is. Now, before you start hating on Buffett, saying how he's a terrible investor because he's been underperforming the market of late, etc., etc. Now, I agree with some of the premise of that, but when you actually think about what angle he's coming from the markets from, he has more cash than most economies. So he's in a different ballpark when it comes to trying to compare his returns specifically to the S&P 500. He can only deploy funds in a very specific way, and there's only so many markets he can really get involved in because of the size of the capital that he has. He's not going to be stuffing around with small market cap stuff. At least that's not going to move the needle on the amount of money that he has. And if you think about him as an economy of sorts, what other economies are growing at the same rate as he is? Not very many, if any at all. Now, this video isn't meant to be about Buffett. I'm trying to make a point here, and the point is twofold. The first point is that we've never had more of a gambling appetite in the markets than ever before, and the second is that the markets are grossly overvalued. We're at one of those times where everyone knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. That's just kind of where we are right now. Now, at some point, the valuations will have to come back in line. Things can't stay this out of balance forever, but and it's not necessarily going to happen tomorrow or even next week, but it will happen. Now, in terms of when, we're getting very close because we are seeing the peak of the real estate cycle, which tops first, and then the stock market tops next. But once again, it doesn't mean it has to happen immediately. It's going to take time, and this is the process I've been talking about. And not only that, since we called the March bottom, the bottom in the stock market, I've been talking a lot about heading into a long-term period of complacency, which is exactly what I believe we're in right now. Prices have bounced back up. Valuations are another story, but prices are up, and I believe everyone's just thinking that things are back to normal now, and this could go on for many, many months as more people begin to pile into the market as the long-term complacency really just gets baked in. And if you think about the gamblers I was talking about right now, what I believe we're seeing as well is the gamblers on a massive winning streak. Their trend is clearly up because every time the market dips, it doesn't last very long, they buy more, and then they're seeing higher prices yet again. So all the gamblers piling into the market are getting euphoric. That's just the way it goes. That's what we're seeing right now. Now, the value clearly isn't there right now, and that's just not my opinion. That's Buffett's opinion, and there are objective ways that you can measure that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter when the price is up and the markets are trending higher. So it's not about just sitting around waiting for a crash all the time. And I'm going to talk a bit about what I'm doing in just a moment. But there's one thing I can tell you I am certainly not doing, and that's backbetting or playing behind the gamblers. I'm not just copying their moves because it will eventually fail. And while I'm not buying more into this uptrend, I'm not selling everything either. But that's just me. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just talking about about what I'm doing in this particular type of market, because we don't head into these markets all that often. If anything, it's about once every 15 to 20 years. Seeing everything that we're seeing right now, or at least what I'm seeing right now, is that these markets are irrational. And I'm not worried about foregoing some potential gains with getting more money into the market in what is a highly speculative and risky market, at least in my opinion, and in the way I see the market playing out. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not playing the short-term swings. That's a completely different kettle of fish. But bigger picture, my view is that we're heading into very risky territory. And I guess my view aside, you can look at what Buffett's doing too. He's been building a cash position for quite a while now, and he's got a substantial cash stash, over $1/3 of $1 trillion waiting to be deployed. But for now, we clearly appear to be in an irrational or gambler's market. So we'll see how long this trend can last and how long the gambler's winning streak can go on for. But that doesn't take away from any of the problems beneath the surface, which I've been talking about at length. I just believe they're going to come front and center when the streak does end. So it's time to stay sharp and stay on top of everything going on here. We're going to be following what's happening behind the scenes and what the price action is doing, because when the two start moving in unison, and at the moment we're seeing them work in opposition, and that is prices going up while the economy is deteriorating. Once we begin to see the prices drop while the economy just continues to deteriorate, that's when things are going to get really hairy. But it isn't happening yet. That's the important thing to note. So we're going to be staying close to everything going on this channel and closer to what the money is doing and what the trends are doing on my main channel, as we do specifically go deeper into the charts and data. So I'll link that channel down below if you haven't found it already. But I'll leave it at that for this one here. Wishing you more health, wealth, and happiness. And until next time, I'll catch you then.